Welcome back to Farriery Tuition. I'm Stephen Hill. I'm here today with Rooney just to give people a few hints and tips on health and safety in handling horses. In light of recent events with the French farrier unfortunately being killed whilst working, we're doing this video to try and help people. We're going to talk about methods of restraint, handling the horse, both farrier and handler, hopefully trying to make life easier for each other. Simple things like whether to use a head collar, a bridle, tying horses up, whether they're cross-tied or whether they're being held. We're going to talk about where the handler should be whilst the farrier is trying to pick up the horse's legs. And we'll talk about the environment in which we're shoeing horses to make it safe for everybody. So most horses, we will use a head collar to restrain the horse, and ideally they're good enough that we tie them up. Two ways of tying a horse up really. We can have them in cross ties, or you can have them on a single tie like this. This is an ideal way. The cross ties here are actually tied to the perfect piece of string. The idea of the string is so it will actually break if the horse panics or slips or something goes wrong. I think we could be okay here with Rooney for now. A lot of people these days have the string off the big bales of hay and straw, the Heston bales, which is far too strong. And with things like these clips, nowadays, these will break. A farrier has actually lost his eye when a horse pulled back and this broke instead of the string breaking. So we need to be really aware of that. Some other forms of restraint are the simple rope halter, a chiffney or a bridle, all of which should be applied by the owner or the handler in charge of the horse, and preferably not the farrier. So Emma here is the owner of Rooney. She's about to apply a halter correctly. A halter is a great form of restraint to stop horses running forward. One key element to a halter is never to tie a horse up with this like so. You would actually want to knot the halter correctly before you would actually tie a horse up. You do risk the chance of breaking a horse's jaw. You tied the horse up and it was pulling back. Want to knot it, Emma? Just like so. Now this horse could be tied up on that side safely. The key part to this is to have an area which is safe to shoe a horse. This is ideal. It's nice and flat, well lit, undercover, and free from obstacles around us. There's no wheelbarrows in the way. There's plenty of room if a horse was to kick. We've got an escape route round the back of the horse if we were working on the back end, and nice and level, which is something that farriers always like. I personally am not so keen on rubber matting. I find it quite slippery, and sometimes when the rubber matting gets old, you can have unlevel areas, or you can have a lip where it comes apart, which I find quite dangerous. You can trip over it. So this is an ideal environment to which we can shoe a horse or trim a horse. So Rooney has been presented to us good way. The legs are clean, the feet are picked out, and he's all ready to go. He's been in, so he's not separated from his field friends straight away. So the horse is nice and calm and ready to be worked on. Sometimes if a horse is fractious from being taken away from other horses, or if there's no other horses in the yard, it's a good idea to tie a horse alongside just to try and calm them down. Another thing that people often do is they're taking horses in and out, being ridden all the time. Trying avoiding that whilst you're trying to work on a horse is also a good idea. And the other thing that we often find is people try and feed all the other horses whilst you're trying to work on a horse, which is also not an ideal situation. The ideal scenario with this horse being tied like this is that we're approaching the horse from the front every time, so it knows we're coming. If you do have to approach a horse from behind, it's a good idea to make a noise, just to let the horse know that you're approaching it. You come along and you don't go straight into the foot. You always touch the horse first, reassure it that you're there. This horse, I'm just leaning my shoulder in, and the horse naturally picks its foot up. And here we are, we have the foot nice, ready to go. He has a bit of an age rat in this horse, so making the horse comfortable is really important. So keeping that leg underneath the horse, he doesn't like it being pulled out too much. And here we are, nice and relaxed, everything's good. So when picking up a back foot, exactly the same thing. Let you know let the horse know that you're there. Come along, I like to touch the horse on the back. I don't touch them on the belly, touch them here, run my leg down, keeping my thumb in and running my hand down the outside of the leg. If this horse was to kick me, my arm would be protecting my face. So I don't know what this horse is like, so I then bring the leg forward, and the first thing I want to do is grab the toe. Then I can feel this horse is slightly stiff behind. Keep the horse comfortable. I then put my arm over his hock to try and hold it in there. I feel safe. I'm now in a position where I can work on this horse, and I feel quite safe, and the horse feels quite comfortable. As you can see, this horse is not being the most helpful, and he's walking off and moving. So one way we could try and deal with this is to get the owner or the handler in charge to come and hold the horse for us. Before things escalate, I'm going to ask Emma, the owner, to come and hold this horse to try and make my life easier. So if this horse was not picking this foot up for me, one thing that Emma could do is to push the horse's head over the other foot, which shifts the horse's body weight over the other limb, which in turn makes this a lot easier to pick this horse's foot up. Once I've got this foot up, that's keeping that head over that side is good. Having Emma stand on the same side of me is always the best way to handle a horse. If I ended up on the floor here, Emma could then pull the horse's head round to me, which will move the horse's back end away from me, which in turn keeps me safer, all being well. And the same with the hind foot. If I picked up a hind foot and I ended up on the floor, pulling the horse's head towards me would move the horse away from me. If a horse is reluctant to pick its back foot up, a good way to help is Emma can pull the horse's head round towards me, which takes the weight off that leg, which enables me to be able to pick that horse's foot up. As you can see, again, I'm coming round the outside. I'm keeping my body close to the horse. If this horse was kicking, if it was kicking straight out the back, it could be a youngster, and that could mean that the horse is afraid. But if the horse is actually reaching to get me, I find that often means that the horse is not being particularly nice, and that horse is actually trying to hurt me. So holding the horse like this, again, keeping close to the horse, pulling the leg forward. If you can get the toe, they often relax. Once you have the toe, especially with a youngster, a foal, they often stop kicking. Now I find that holding the horse's front or hind leg, the key thing is to keep the fetlock flexed. This horse here is an older horse, he's quite stiff. Sometimes you find holding them in a lower position will help the horse be comfortable. And another way of keeping this in that position and being able to work on it is to use a cradle. So I now have a cradle. I'm going to do exactly the same, pull the horse's leg forward, grab the toe. Once I've got the toe, you can see the horse is relaxed. I'm actually holding that with one finger. It's hardly putting any weight on me. And you can put the foot on the cradle. These horses will tend to relax a lot more with a cradle. They're holding it in one place. It's safe. If the horse isn't happy, it could quite easily move the foot away. Some horses that I shoe, some of the older hunters, will actually leave their foot on the cradle, and I could walk away. And I could come back with the shoe and burn on, and they seem quite at ease. Horses will actually stand on one leg most of the time anyway, so they constantly rest a leg. So resting it like this is often quite easy for them. So one thing you need to be aware of is where you start, where the horse is positioned when you go to first pick the horse's foot up. This horse is stood too close to that wall, and if I go to pick this horse's leg up, it can't lean over to put all its weight on that other leg. So if you can move the horse away from the wall, please, Emma. Perfect. So we need to make sure the horse is stood square now. It's stood square in front. I'm going to pick up the hind leg again. Emma's going to pull the head towards me, which automatically takes the weight off that leg. That's perfect. There it is, the foot's there. Grab the toe, and here we are. Sometimes if a horse is misbehaving, if anybody is nervous or scared about handling the horse, the horse can feel those vibes. And a bad way of holding onto a horse is to hold onto the head collar tight. Ideally, you want to be holding 18 inches away from the buckle and then keeping the horse's head straight. Emma did it automatically there. If you need to move the horse back, or if you need to give it a little snatch, if the horse is being nasty, you can snatch on the rope to say 8, don't do that. So if this horse was trying to walk all over Emma, she's just done exactly what she needed to do. She put her hand on its chest and she moved it back. I always find when you have a horse, if it's trying to walk away and get away from you, moving the horse back to where the horse was and then moving the horse back means that you have the last say, and horses start to respect you more. Now he's coming forward, I just move him back. Just by putting my hand in there, I'm not shouting at the horse. The horse is relaxed. You often find youngsters, foals are held without a head collar. They put their arm underneath them here and they put their arm behind their back, because when you hold onto the horse's head, it often makes them tense. I know if Emma was holding onto this horse and I had its hind leg and she was tense and she was holding onto it tight, I can actually feel it when I'm working on a hind leg. It's always a good idea to make sure that the handler holding the horse is concentrating and doing their job properly. One thing I'd also like to mention is owners and handlers giving misleading signals to the horse. Often positive reassurance can have the opposite effect when trying to hold a horse. Another example of this is actually giving a horse tidbits when a horse is misbehaving. It's not telling the horse that it shouldn't be misbehaving, it's actually encouraging a horse to misbehave. Giving a horse a hay net or feeding a horse on the floor to try and get the horse to stand still can also be quite awkward. You can see that the horse's head is the wrong way for me to be lifting up the horse's left leg. And also the horse's head on it would weigh about 10 stone. So when that horse is snatching down on his hay net, you have to then counteract the weight behind, which isn't good for the farrier's back and body who's holding the horse's leg. Normally the final thing to do with the horse that's misbehaving when you're trying to get it shod is to either use a twitch. This should only ever be applied by the owner or the handler. A twitch is applied to the horse's muzzle and it tightens around here. You get the traditional string twitch, which is on a pole, or you get what they call the humane twitch. This actually releases endorphins. It doesn't actually hurt the horse. This releases endorphins that can make them relax. And sometimes it's a very easy way and a good way to make a horse stand. Another way is to get hold of the horse's skin here. This is called a skin twitch. This also releases endorphins, very similar to when you see horses in the field. If you scratch them on their withers, they often start to get their bottom lip going and they scratch each other there because that releases endorphins. This is not a method that hurts the horse, either holding it here or holding its nose. What you should never do is to hold onto a horse's ear, which is called an ear twitch. This can damage the hyoid apparatus and can really hurt a horse, and it should never be done. The other option is to sedate the horse. I have good experience and bad experience with sedation. If the vet sedates the horse, I like the horse to be very sedated, so it can't kick me, but I have to hold the horse up. Whereas if I have a horse that's sometimes sedated by the owner, if the sedation's not quite worked or the horse has got a little bit anxious prior to having the sedation because it knows what's coming, I find that they can have their head down and then all of a sudden jump out of sedation, and I find that worse. I'd rather know that the horse is going to kick me rather than it being in and out of a sleepy stage. There we have it, guys. There's some health and safety tips and handling horse tips for the farrier. I hope you found this useful. Remember to like and subscribe, and hopefully we will see you soon.